Alright everybody, how you doing? So today is the day after Pokemon Day 2023. Yesterday was Pokemon Presents and people were not happy with what they saw. Some of the reception is understandable, but for the most part, I think a lot of the reception is a little bit unwarranted. I'm going to get into that later, but first I want to go over a quick review of what we got from the Pokemon Presents yesterday. So the first thing they started off with was a logo of the Pokemon World Championships. That's not really that big of a deal. Nobody really cared, but that might have been a good indicator for what we were going to get, and we might have paid attention to that if we weren't so hyped up. The next thing was Pokemon TCG Classic. I really like this reveal since I'm into the TCG. It was just a Pokemon game board, a Pokemon card game board, which had a compartment with this new style of like playing games, like these new counters for damage, and this new little marble thing which allows you to it's basically for flipping coins. It's to replace the coins, and then it also comes with 3 decks, which involves base set Charizard, base set Venusaur, and base set Blastoise, as well as new cards. The next thing they showed was the Pokemon stop motion Netflix series. That would have been interesting to me if it wasn't for the fact that it was on Netflix. Like, I tried to pay attention to what it was going to be about, but I just kept seeing Netflix behind the lady who was speaking, and I'm just like, yo, that's gonna get canceled. Netflix is going down and they've been canceling things left and right, so that really wasn't something I was too happy to see. The next thing was Zacian for Pokemon Unite. That release could have come at any time because they release Pokemon pretty frequently on that game. I really enjoy it, and I did think that they were going to do that. They were going to reveal a Pokemon. Didn't expect it to be Zacian, of course, because there's like 1,000 Pokemon they could have revealed, but it was a good reveal anyway. Pokemon Cafe had their reveal, Greninja, and then the 3 starters from Paldea. That was alright, but not a lot of people play Cafe, or at least as far as I know. Pokemon Masters EX, this is something I do play, so I was ever so slightly interested in this, but I had this spoiled ahead of time, so I didn't really care too much. And then they had Pokemon Sleep and its compatibility with Pokemon Go. Pokemon Sleep is something that we learned about like a year or 2 ago, I think, and we hadn't heard anything of it since then. So this reveal wasn't so much of a surprise, I guess, but it was a little bit interesting. But after all of that, that's when we got to the end of the whole thing with the Scarlet and Violet update. Scarlet and Violet update included the Walking Wake and the Iron Leaves Paradox forms of Suicune and Virizion, respectively. That was pretty interesting to me. They were available for raids right after the presentation. That was cool. If I had the games, I'd probably be more interested in that, but I'm not. But it is, something nice to look forward to, as well as the Scarlet and Violet DLC that was announced, the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc. I liked both of these reveals. Again, I don't have the games, so it doesn't mean too much to me, but it seems like these 2 DLC packs are going to be coming out sometime in October, sometime near the end of the year, because it seems like they're giving us that long for an early purchase to get the shiny Zoroark. That's also alright. I'm not too concerned with that. I am pretty interested in the DLC though. It looks like the idea is that you're going on a field trip for the Teal Mask DLC, and then you're going to be a transfer student for the Indigo Disc DLC, and those are pretty interesting concepts. I kind of like those. I saw somebody mention in my last video that it's basically sucks that we're gonna have to pay to change the colors of our outfits, but I don't think that we're really going to be able to change the color of our outfits. I think we're just getting new outfits, but that's it. I don't think we're going to be able to customize those too much. But anyway, me personally, like I said before, I was really into the Pokemon TCG Classic because I am into the TCG, and I actually do plan to start collecting next month. So seeing that was really interesting to me. If I am able to get the Pokemon TCG Classic, I do plan on doing an unboxing of it. So I'm really excited for that. But it seems like one of those things that, it's going to sell out, and then that's just going to be it. So we'll have to see about that. I like the DLC. I would have liked to have seen more of it, but we got what we got. And the patch wasn't mentioned much, but at the same time, it was released with the update. If they were going to update the game with new Pokemon, it makes sense that they were going to update the game with the patches that they were talking about since before the update. That just makes sense. I saw somebody playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet after the update went out, and they said that it felt like it played better, but I'm not entirely sure if that's just in their head or the patch actually did help the performance. I do know that a part of the patch says something about there's not going to be as many Pokemon or people in certain areas that might help it run better. So I don't know. If you have the game, let me know. Like, does it feel like it's running better? Did you run into glitches before, whereas now you're not running into so much? I don't have the game, so I just don't really know, but it sounds interesting. So I want to talk about the reception now, because to me, this is kind of, it's not important, but like, I don't know. This seems to happen so many times where when it comes to a reveal, whether it's Nintendo or I don't know, any game, Sony, Xbox, I see this a lot more with Nintendo. But whenever it comes to anything that's you know, comes to a reveal and people are expecting certain things and then they don't get it, it seems like that's due to us hyping ourselves up too much for what could come, and then when we don't get it, it's a huge bummer. Me personally, I wanted the 64 and the Game Boy games to be announced and or released, if not that, just a release date, but we didn't get any of that. To me, this wasn't a big letdown. I mean, I was definitely disappointed, and I was sad to see them say we have one final video, knowing that it was going to be the DLC and that we weren't going to get anything else after that. But it wasn't a huge blow to me, because originally I didn't think that any of this was going to happen on Pokemon Day. Originally, when they announced that the Game Boy was going to be on the Switch, I figured that they were probably going to release the Pokemon Game Boy games, if they were, sometime around the end of March or the beginning of April. I didn't start thinking about the Pokemon Day thing until after I released that first video, because I completely forgot that Pokemon Day was a thing. That's an idea that I adopted. So after, you know, the whole presentation thing, I mean, I was for the most part all right. I saw the Pokemon Classic thing, I saw the DLC, it was all nice, and I was like, all right, let's keep it moving. But a lot of people didn't feel that way, because a lot of people seem to want a new game, which I mean, that would have been all right, I guess, but it seems like it's way too soon for a new game. I mean, back when they announced Scarlet and Violet, a lot of us felt like it was too soon because we had just gotten Arceus. So to announce another game this soon doesn't seem like the right thing to do. And then Scarlet and Violet released, and it was full of bugs and glitches and stuff like that. Now, whether or not that had anything to do with how soon they released it, I mean, who knows? Who actually literally knows? It doesn't matter if you look at it. We don't know what's going on, but it's hard to say that that's not the reason why. So to think that they would announce a new game this early, they need to be focused on Scarlet and Violet, not announcing a new game or releasing a new game. Releasing old games are perfectly fine, but releasing new games is kind of insane. Some people wanted a new generation. That was especially crazy. The way generations work, we don't get a new one for another 2, hopefully 3 years. That's how long it typically takes for a new generation to come out. I seem to remember them being longer a long time ago, but maybe that's just because life seemed a little bit longer. Anyway, some people even wanted a remake of Unova. I do understand that that seems to be the trend. People seem to think that the only reason we get remakes is for the sole purpose of Pokemon trying to make money off of people, and I don't think it's the sole purpose, but that's for another time. Anyway, what I want to say is, like, I really feel like people need to start tempering their expectations. It's great, if perfectly fine, to, you know, get hype about what could happen and to think about what could happen and then just, like, you know, sit there and wait for it. But like, if you're the type of person who's sitting here and you're looking for somebody to blame because you didn't get what you wanted, despite the fact that there is no clear indication that we were going to get what you wanted, that seems a little bit unhealthy. I mean, like, now you're mad and you don't need to be. On top of the fact that you're looking for somebody to blame when you didn't really lose out on anything. Like, we're not missing anything. Like, I really want to talk about that. We're not missing anything. We're still going to get the Pokemon Stadium games this year. And I mean, just because they didn't announce the Pokemon games for the Game Boy during the Pokemon Day, that doesn't mean that we're not getting it. To me, honestly, what it means is that they just didn't have a lot to present when Pokemon Day came around, but they wanted to celebrate Pokemon Day, and you can't really tell them how they should celebrate the day that basically gave birth to their whole company. Some people were saying things like a lot of these things could have just been tweets, but I know if these things were tweets, people would be so upset. If all they gave out was a few tweets about a few things that's not really that big, people would be upset. They'd be like, oh man, this is a lame Pokemon day. Like, they gave us what they could. I'm not entirely upset about it. It was, boring. It wasn't that good, but at the same time, like, I'm not upset about it. That's insane to me to be mad about it. That's insane to me. But like I said, just because we didn't get any news on the games coming to the Switch doesn't mean that it's not happening. Some people were saying that they're not going to release the games on the Nintendo Switch online service because they're more likely to release on the eShop to make more money. I don't see that happening. I'm pretty sure they're going to release it. I mean, because that wouldn't make any sense. They could do the same thing with the Pokemon card game. It doesn't matter if the Pokemon card game isn't as popular as the Pokemon Red and Blue. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to treat them that differently. Some people were saying that their Pokemon company were waiting until the end of the eShop to make more money from people who have a fear of missing out, which, I mean, I guess that can make sense in some way. I don't think that's the case either. I think it's more likely that it just doesn't make sense for them to announce or release a game before any of the other games that come out for the Nintendo Switch Online. The Pokemon card game still has not come out yet, so it would be pretty crazy for them to just straight up release Pokemon Red and Blue without any announcement, and the other games that were announced previously hadn't come out yet. We haven't seen that yet before, and Pokemon Company as well as Nintendo, they seem to work on patterns, and we're just not gonna see those games more than likely until after the Pokemon card game comes out. That's what's more likely. On top of that though, I want to say we don't really know what it takes to put games on the Nintendo Switch Online service. It's not as simple, in my opinion, as just uploading a file online like we can do with all these other ROMs. I mean, if it were that easy, then they wouldn't have had that slip up whenever it came to the Nintendo 64 first coming out. Zelda had huge issues. I remember the textures were wrong, the connection was bad, and there was also something bad with Super Mario 64. It should be easy. I mean, you would imagine that it would be easy, but like I said, like, there's no telling what they have planned. There's no telling if they want to wait until they get the connectivity thing between the two games, the 64 games and the Game Boy games, right? If that is what they're doing, there's just no telling what they're doing. But one thing I do kind of get tired of is just immediately jumping to the greed idea. Just immediately jumping to, oh, the reason they're not going to do this or the reason they're doing this is because they want more money. That's so lazy to me, and I don't think that's entirely what's going on. I mean, it could be, but to immediately just decide that, I don't see that. I don't see that at all. We're still definitely getting Pokemon Stadium because Pokemon and Nintendo are pretty good about staying on top of their dates. They rarely push anything back. And we might even see it before summer. Like I said, I mean, we might see Pokemon Stadium come out at the end of March, at the beginning of April. And if not that, they might be waiting to push out the Pokemon Stadium games along with the Game Boy games, as well as the connectivity, if we are right about this. And I feel like we are right about this. I feel like they are going to allow the Pokemon Gen 1 games to be compatible with the Stadium games, but only time will tell it. So at the end of this video, I want to just say one more thing. I want to talk about the whole Mystery Dungeon thing, because we had a leak for Mystery Dungeon, and in my last video I made this joke about how if I'm right about Mystery Dungeon being announced for the Switch, then everybody should subscribe to my to my channel and my Patreon and everything. Some people saw that and they were like, well, you can't say that, you can't make that bet, because it's already been confirmed. Like, we've already saw the leak that it's going to be announced. And it was just a joke, but it's kind of funny now looking back on it that, there was no Mystery Dungeon. Jeez, I can't speak. There was no Mystery Dungeon mentioned at all. As a matter of fact, after seeing that, I kind of went to see what the actual leak was, because I didn't look up the leak. I just took people's word for it because so many people were saying it. Well, after looking at the leak, I found that it was just a copyright. It was just a copyright with Spike Chunsoft. There was no leak that specifically stated that the Mystery Dungeon was going to be announced during Pokemon Day. What it actually was the leaker. The person who leaked it said that it seemed like it was guaranteed. But other than that, there was nothing. Like, there was nothing that said that this is 100% going to be a thing. So, that was kind of funny. We really thought that Mystery Dungeon was going to be announced, and as it turns out, it didn't. It was just a copyright thing. I didn't even know that much. I just heard people say, yeah, it's been confirmed. There was a leak. It's been confirmed for Pokemon Day. and it actually wasn't. But that's a pretty good example of how people kind of get swept up in the hype, and then they just kind of go wild with the expectations, and then they get let down, believing that things are 100% set in stone when they're not. Okay, I'm running out of breath. I need some water. I'm getting tired. I've been trying to do this all day, but there's been people working on the apartment next door, so I've been waiting for that, as well as trying to get a video rendered that has not been coming out well. So I'm gonna go work on that while at the same time trying to get this video out today. Hopefully we do get the announcements soon. I don't know how soon, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to get them. And hopefully, we just temper our expectations next time. There's no reason to get upset, to get mad that you didn't get any information that you wanted. It doesn't mean that it's not going to come. It just means that it's not going to come as fast as we thought. We're perfectly fine. We have a brand new game. Scarlet and Violet is only, 3 months old? We still have a new game. Let's just breathe for a minute, okay? Let's not see any new games for a while. Oh, boy. All right, everybody. Let me know what y'all think. I'll catch y'all later.